Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Doing well.
Good. You
Another
have
pretty
water?
day today. What's that?
I was asking if you had water.
I have some water. I was telling Evan here I was going to get a guy supposed to come up this weekend, Fred Cox, and his son uh, got sick and he wasn't able to make it. I don't know if his son's going to make it or not, but I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out what to do with that. I wanted
Uh,
somebody else's opinion before I look into digging a well.
all right. And good morning, Evan, and long time no see, and how are you, and all that kind of stuff.
Good morning. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Doing all right. So, did you pass your test?
I did.
All right.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you're certified. I'm just certifiable. So, there we go.
I'm right there
So,
with you. I'm definitely certifiable.
We've all got to be something, don't
Yeah.
yep. So, are y'all there in Keysville this morning?
Yes.
Cool. And good
Yes,
morning to
sir.
y'all.
Good morning,
Morning.
guys.
And Keith isn't here yet, but I haven't
Yeah.
heard that he wasn't going to be. So,
Well, happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
we? Yeah.
So maybe you have a hot date with your significant other this evening. I don't know. I don't know what I have planned for my wife this evening.
oh,
Nothing really. I'm in a panic mode.
Yeah,
I,
wrong answer.
yeah, wrong answer. I got to go buy flowers today and a card. Because I've yet
yep.
to do that. You
Which I
got yours already, right, Tom?
Yeah, mostly, but we kind of go low key for Valentine's Day, but we're going to grill out some steaks and that kind of thing tonight. But it's not going to be as romantic when you have the two kids sitting at the table with us, but well, it is what it is.
That's going to be more. I'm probably going to be more low key than you. I'll just go buy her some flowers and a card. Evan, what about you? You got your flowers already bought for your wife yet? He's in the same boat I am. I can tell by looking at him. Like, I better do something. I'm glad, Dwayne, you reminded me it's Valentine's Day today.
Oh no, I knew it was coming. She baked me a cake last night.
Oh,
Oh yeah, so she's on the ball.
got you a cake.
Yeah. So I had to say, oh, you just wait and see what I got. Be surprised for all of us.
One of those.
Yep.
I think I'm going to run over to Food City and buy some roses and chocolate covered strawberries for her today and pick up a card.
Yep.
She'll be all right.
Yep.
Tell you how tight I am. We was at Food City shopping this weekend. I said, honey, if I was going to buy you a card, this would be the one I'd buy you. So I can buy it for you if you can just read it here. We can just put it back and enjoy it.
You old softy,
Debbie
you.
rolled her eyes. What's that, Tom?
You old softy, you. That's
Hey,
awesome.
So how's sleep on the couch going?
uh, it. I guess we'll find out tonight. See whether I got
Okay.
her that card or not. I thought it was a good idea. I mean, cards are a waste of money. You
Yes,
know,
they are.
I think they are. She did that to me one time, so I figured turnabout's fair play. I can't remember what it was for. Was it our anniversary or my birthday or something? She said, Dwayne, here's your birthday card for you. So I read it. I said, all right, cool, thanks, I like it. We put it back on the shelf and went on. I didn't get a card that year. Hey,
Well, just
that's a
just
woman after
remember,
my own heart.
just remember, in the Wall Street Journal Saturday edition, they had a whole section on Valentine's, and all
Uh-huh.
Valentine's love is just intermingling of pheromones.
Okay, that's all right too. So anyway, all right, guys. Did y'all make your little talking heads and bring them to class today?
Yes.
Cool. Oh, Keith's got his in a box. Let's see it, Keith. Bring it on out.
And this is
All
well
right.
protected because I had to make two of them, one for me and one for my grandson.
Okay, Keith, I'm zooming.
Okay.
Show it.
Happy
All right.
Valentine's.
Looks good. All right, Jasmine and Aaron, let's take a look at yours. You'll have to talk to get the camera over there on you.
Is it graded?
I haven't looked yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I will. Jasmine and Aaron, can y'all speak up so the camera will flop over there?
Yeah, we're working on trying to get it to work.
All right, there you go. All right, good job. Let's see. All right, Jasmine. Nice job. Okay. All right. So everybody did it. Now, for the second part of this, and Evan didn't know to do it. He didn't listen to the lecture last week to bring it. He'll bring his tomorrow or Thursday. So the second part of this, and Keith, this is going to be a little tough for you by yourself. I want you guys to figure out how you would grade that. I want you to write down your criteria on how you would grade that little task. All right, but instead of writing down, let's just throw out some ideas. Let's speak out loud. What would be some things you would do? You know, what's
First thing, following directions.
Okay.
Now, are you having
Follow
them?
directions.
Are you having them evaluate how they would grade the talking head that they made, or how they would grade the assignment?
Well,
for the student, as
the
if they were
grade
the
the
teacher.
talking head. How would you assign a grade to it? So you first thing, you know, Keith said he would check on following directions. Okay, was it completed on time?
Functionality.
What did you say, Keith?
Functionality.
Functionality, does it work?
Quality.
Okay, how are you going to assess the quality?
You can tell
I mean,
took her time and took pains with her just together, you know.
okay,
You can tell the difference when somebody focuses on a job and really puts effort into it, and somebody just throws it together just to get it done.
okay. Now when we think about quality, is it, well, you know, the purpose of this is to show you that it's tough to do, to review and evaluate other people's work. Okay? That's what I'm getting at. You know, we want to be objective. You know, we don't, you know, when we're critiquing or doing performance reviews for our employees, you know, we don't want to, you know, you don't want feelings to get in the way, right? Would you agree or disagree? Because you may have somebody working for you you may not really like, but they do good work, right? Or you may have somebody working for you you really like, and they do shoddy work. So how would you do quality? What would be some parameters of quality for this task that would take out that subjectivity? Now you said one thing you said, you can kind of tell by looking at it, they throw it together, is that they take their time. So would you have like crisp, straight lines if they took their time? Or would you have lines, all over the place where they folded and refolded and or maybe crooked lines? All right, so we could go with crisp, straight lines.
You could do an effort grade. How much effort they put forth to it.
Yeah, does it look like they put much effort in it? Is it decorated up? Or is it just plain Jane? Because unless that piece of paper was the correct dimensions, that doesn't work, does it? If you pulled out just a sheet of typing paper or copy paper and tried to follow that, it wouldn't work. Did anybody try to do that?
I tried to do that 3 times.
Yeah, I mean, let's just, everybody tries
Before
to do it. Oh, this is close enough.
Before I realized that I had to cut the paper or do something different.
Right. So then you have to go back and read the instructions, right? Because, I mean, it's something that, I don't know, maybe it's something that guys do. Oh, there's a picture. We just follow the pictures. We can figure it out. And it doesn't work, so you have to go back and read the instructions. And it's like,
I got to like
Go
step
ahead.
4 and I couldn't get no farther after step 4.
Yeah, that's about where it ends if your paper's not the correct dimensions. So that forces you to go back and read those instructions and follow those instructions to a T. So how else would you grade? What else? What other things would you look at?
Appearance.
Appearance. Okay.
Oops. Lose mine.
I don't know if that's spelled right. Are you having a tough time trying to figure out how you would grade this task? Or not? If you had to grade Keith sitting there by himself, but if Jasmine had to grade Aaron's and Aaron's has to grade Jasmine's, how hard would that be for you two to grade each other's, put a grade to it?
Well, there's a $20 bill in the mail.
I think it would be kind of hard.
Yeah, it'd be kind of hard because, you want to grade it, but you don't really want to hurt his feelings, do you?
Yeah, I guess.
Would that come into play?
Dwayne, right now we're looking at your Blackboard Grade Center on the screen. Just for the
Oh, I'm
record.
sorry. I thought I had it on document camera. Thank you. I was writing these things down. I put it on the wrong one. How hard would that be? Or would your feelings come into play on what type of grade to give him? Jasmine?
I think I'd have a harder time trying to figure out what to grade rather than feelings getting in the way.
Okay. What about you, Aaron?
I think I would feel about the same. I mean, don't want to hurt the. I don't want to hurt her feelings, but also I want to be grading on what she would be grading on mine. The same kind of following the same steps.
Okay. Now, if we didn't, write down some things that we could use as grading parameters or parameters, uh, and I just turned you loose how to grade it, and I said, okay, Jasmine, you give yours to Aaron, and Aaron, you give yours to Jasmine, and grade it. Would that be even harder to do?
Yes.
Yeah, it would be.
Keith seemed to think it'd be easier if there was a $20 bill in the one he was supposed to grade.
Yeah, or a gift certificate to Outback. Or Ruth Chris's. Ruth Chris would be better.
$20 wouldn't get you in the front door, Ruth's Chris.
No, it wouldn't, would it? That may buy your baked potato. I've never eaten there. I've just heard a lot about it. But I've never been there. I guess I'm more of a bonanza type of guy. At least that's what my wallet says.
I must be from a different part of the state from y'all because I've never heard of that restaurant before.
Which one, Ruth Chris or Bonanza?
Both of them.
Same here.
Ruth Chris is a very, very high-end restaurant. It's a steakhouse, and we don't have them here. You pretty much have to go to really big, or I've seen them in big cities.
I think there's one in Raleigh, and that's probably the closest one to us here.
I know Sean Hannity talks about going there a lot. So, and they talk about how good the food is, but it's pretty high dollar. I don't know how much, you ever eaten there, Keith? You ever been to Ruth Chris's?
Yeah, I would say probably you're lucky for two of you to get out of there for about $250.
All right. So now you know why I've never eaten there. I was thinking it'd be about $100 a head. Is that the same way?
Time you got drinks and everything, that's about $250.
That place wasn't full. When we pulled in, we sat down, we figured out why it wasn't full. Me,
Wow.
my wife, my sister-in-law, $280.
Jeez. Yeah, I can't afford that. Now, Bonanza, it's a local restaurant here in Lebanon. It used to be a little chain. Did y'all ever watch Bonanza on TV? With Little Joe and Haas and Paul Cartwright. The guy that played Haas started the Bonanza and Ponderosa restaurants. And so they used to be scattered out, and the steakhouse in Lebanon is Bonanza. And, it's kind of like, I don't even know if it's as good as Golden Corral, is it?
They've got new management, so they're not too bad, man.
Okay. But it's just a little local steakhouse. I think most of that franchise is gone under. So, anyway, that's the kind of comparing the lower end of a steak restaurant to the upper end.
Well, I think as for graduation for our class, our instructor should take the students out to Ruth Chris. There's a real nice one in Richmond.
Really? I don't have that kind of money. I can't even afford to take my wife to Ruth Chris, let alone me.
Remember, he's not even buying his wife a Valentine's Day card. He's showing her one on the store rack. So, anyway.
Hey, I bought her a horse one time.
There you go.
That's better than a Valentine's Day card.
Now, who rode the horse more, you or her?
Me.
Uh-huh. Just checking.
Hey, I made her. I custom made her a saddle. How many wives can say their husbands made them a saddle?
I'll give you a point for that one.
Yeah. I should get like 10 points for that one. That's a pretty big deal. Custom made to fit her. So, anyway, so I can skimp with the cards. All right. So anyway,
There's a nice steakhouse in Roanoke. It's in the old. It's by a Hotel Roanoke there. I can't think the name of it. I've been there for many, many years. It's right there across from there. We could all meet there. Oh, they bring the side of beef around, and you tell them how thick you want your loin cut, and they'll cut it and cook it to order.
wow, that sounds pretty fancy.
Yeah, it's a little less expensive than Ruth Chris, but we can meet there.
Like what? $10 less?
I don't know. You're treating.
But anyway, what I'm trying to get at is it's tough to come in here or to do performance evaluations on people. Now, has everybody been through a performance evaluation at their jobs? I know Keith has.
Many of them.
Yeah. What about you, Aaron? And the Southern states give you a yearly annual review on the performance of your job?
I haven't gotten mine yet. I've almost been there a year, not quite.
Okay. Have you ever had one from another place that you worked?
No, they haven't. I haven't gotten one from any place that I worked yet.
Okay. What about you, Jasmine?
No.
No. Okay. Evan?
We had them every quarter at the gas company.
Okay, so Evan's been through quite a few. Now, I'm going to pick on Evan and Keith a little bit. When it's time for you to go in there for that performance review, do you get a little anxious? Do you dread it or?
Not if you're confident you've done your job. That's what I always.
So it didn't bother you?
I know what I did when I did. Not ashamed of my work. I never did feel I had anything to be anxious about.
Okay. Keith, did you dread it or anything like that?
Well, mine was kind of unique. Since I was kind of the captain of my ship, my region manager would fly in and spend the day with me, and we would spend the morning doing the performance review, then play golf in the afternoon, and then he would take my wife and me out to dinner, and he would fly out the next morning. Because basically, in the position I had, you either were good at your job or you didn't have the job. So basically, it was your numbers. So if you had good sales numbers, everybody loved you. If you didn't have good sales numbers, you were given a pink sheet. So that's about how it went.
All right. So it sounds like the position you had to do performance reviews on people that you were in charge of, right?
Right. And basically, the way it worked out, it was a three-prong approach. You did your evaluation on how you think you did that quarterly reviews, and then your manager did review. And then what was unique, they would send out questionnaires to your customers and asking for feedback. So all those three elements were put in the equation, and then you got a qualifying number, and that number puts you at, says, aha, you exceeded expectations, you superseded, you met expectations, or you need improvement.
Okay.
That's the same way ours.
Yours was the same way.
See, we worked on our own. We went for weeks at a time without seeing anybody.
Okay.
You know, so I mean, we didn't have no supervision telling us this, and it's done. You had your field. You had to keep up the field to they had their standard, but you had to interpret that however you wanted, and keep everything good. And then when you done your evaluation, you had to go through, and they had a list of things like you were saying. You got to give your opinions back. I done this good, and I done that good. And then your supervisor, he'd go through the field. He'd do a field audit, and he'd see how your field measures up to their standards. And then he'd go back and put his opinions. He'd write them down. And that's kind of the way they had ours set up. And we got scored on that where we meet, exceed, or not. Need
improvement. Okay. Did everybody hear what Evan said? Were y'all able to hear him or not?
Not really.
Okay.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, that microphone's not working too good. All right. Evan worked for a gas well company, and he said he worked months at a time without ever seeing anybody. So when it came time for his quarterly or his reviews, they gave you a questionnaire to fill out, and he would answer the questions, and then his supervisor would come and look over his area and answer the same questions, and then they discussed them and came up with exceeded or did his job or needs improvement or some type of thing on it.
That's what determined our bonus.
Right.
Good incentive.
Right. It can be. Now, that's interesting because sometimes, the performance reviews I've had, I would go in to my boss's office and they would sit there and they'd tell me what I did wrong or tell me what I did right, tell me where I needed to improve, and tell me where I exceeded, and then came up with an overall deal. It's kind of a different way of doing it. The thing, performance appraisals as an employer, that's going to be one of your most important tools that you have as a manager. The reasons being that can be one of your most important tools is because you can, as a manager, you can kind of plan on what's going on, and you can see the results of some of the decisions you've made. As, am I hiring the right people? Do I need to implement training in this area? Or do I need, should I look at, I'm thinking about giving raises. How can I use this performance, my raises be based on these performance reviews or bonuses? Do I need to hire somebody else? Is somebody getting ready to leave? And so, it's a way to evaluate what you're doing as a manager, and it's a way to evaluate, what your employees are doing.
Gives your employees a standard.
And yeah, and it kind of gives them a standard and lets them know how they're measuring up, if they're fulfilling those job duties that they're hired to do. Now, there's several variations of different ways you can do performance reviews. The two most popular, the ones I've been a part of the most, is what's referred to as the traditional performance review. And that's where the supervisor is the expert on everything. And the other type a performance review is what they term as the negotiated performance review. And the negotiated performance review, basically, you as the employee evaluate your own work, and your boss evaluates your work, and then you do an evaluation on your employer or your boss, and then you sit down and you discuss everything. And from the way you described it, Keith and Evan, y'all pretty much had that negotiated type performance appraisal. You evaluated yourself, your supervisor evaluated you, and you talked about it. In the traditional type, the supervisor's the expert and he just evaluates you and you don't have much of a say. And those are those two types and variations of those. So, and we'll discuss those two types. But
one thing, just
ahead,
one comment. Yeah, the performance valuation, in my experience, it was kind of like you were a coach of a football team. You're trying to implement a game plan, and you kind of get on the same page of the game and where you are and where you want to be. And then it's a continuation evaluation. It's not just every 6 months or the year-end evaluation. You're given updates monthly on how you're meeting those projections and goals and things. And these could be things for increasing the business amount, or maybe it's some professional advancement. Maybe you might need to take accounting class or something to improve you in your job. So it's a combination of many things that go into the evaluation process. So it's just not one document and one event. It's a continuous performance thing.
And you're right. Ideally, that's what we want. Okay? We look at it as an employer, we're kind of coaching that team. And, we've got to make changes throughout the game to stay ahead. And these performance reviews allows us to do that. Do we need to do training? Do I need to send one of my employees to a class? You can see what's going on and you stay on top of it as an employer. And that's a really good analogy. And it sounds like where Keith worked and Evan worked, Keith said, you said you had those things quarterly, right?
Right.
Okay, what about you? How often did you have them? Yours was quarterly. Mine, everywhere I worked, it was just once a year. And
well, we had the year-end evaluation, but basically it was just reviewing the 4 quarters, and that basically was evaluating how well you implemented the previous 4 quarters goal plan.
Right. Yeah, but you had them throughout the year. Then you had like a final one at the end of the year. The places I've worked, you just had one a year. And I really, I wonder how effective just having one a year is, especially when the supervisor is the expert. He's sitting there evaluating your work. Is it really kind of like that coach, comparing it? Because these things are very important tools. Do you think agribusinesses do a lot of these performance reviews? Do you think farmers do them?
I don't think so, because that's time out of the field and money out of the owner's pocket.
Yeah. Businesses, probably like companies, I would assume southern states would do them. The businesses probably do these things. I've never worked on a farm where I got a performance review. I didn't know those things existed till I got a state job. I've never had a farmer do one with me. And I've been in management on farms. Never had it. So, I think we kind of, as farmers, I think we kind of slack. Do you think it could, and I think that's a tool that farmers could really incorporate. Now, looking at it on the flip side, thinking about it theoretically, farmers, most farmers don't do performance reviews. I've never had one done. And theoretically, they should do them, right? In real life, the farms you work on, for those of you who've worked on farms, how many, most times you're sitting there working with the owner throughout the day, right? He's your direct supervisor. And you usually work with him on a daily basis. So in reality, he knows what's going on, what you're capable of, what you're not capable of. It's kind of a constant evaluation. You understand what I'm saying?
But in that situation, how does one protect himself or justify, say, you're a good worker, I'm going to give you a certain percentage raise. The other guy that work with, he's kind of not as good, and I'm going to give him maybe half as much. And you two one day are sitting around the barn, and you say, yeah, I really appreciate getting the raise. And the other guy says, I didn't get that much.
Aha! That's really good. I mean, that's a good point. And that happens. That's real life. Now, you're sitting here, working with the farmer or the owner of a business or whatever on a constant basis. You're constantly getting that evaluation, at least in his mind. How much feedback do they normally give you? None. Very seldom do you get, hey, you're doing great, or hey, we need to work with you on this to improve these skills here. You don't get a lot of feedback.
You always hear the negative.
You hear the negative.
You don't hear
You don't hear the positive. And, but he's got that perfect, they got that perfect opportunity to do that. And when it comes time for raises or bonuses, and if it's based on your performance, and he's just making a fly by the seat decision to give you a bigger raise than me, and we're in that scenario of Keith said we're sitting there at the barn talking. Where's his documentation? Because, I'm 40 years old. Is that age discrimination? I didn't get that bigger raise or that bonus, and you did? Or Jasmine's a girl. Is that sexual discrimination? You see where we're going, guys? It's documentation as well. You always have to have documentation for these decisions you make, because depending on who it is and what happens, it could come back to bite you. So these performance evaluations, you do need to document it on what you talked about, or keep a record of it of somehow, some way of subjectively measuring the performance of the employees. Is that making sense, guys?
Yes, sir.
If you think back to the beginning of the semester, one of the things that employees expect from management is to improve on their, the opportunity to improve on their skills, right? And to grow. These performance appraisals provide that opportunity. If they're done correctly, they're going to provide, they're going to point out, hey, we need to get you to improve in this area, and let's see what we can do to improve your skills in this area, right? And it's a time as well to give positive feedback. That's one thing I think a lot of people lack, is giving that positive feedback. And I think we were talking the other day, I was telling you about a guy I worked with, or maybe, Jasmine, was it just me and you in class yesterday talking about how I brought to the guy that when I went into there at Stewart's, the guy had been there like 20 some years, and, I relied on him a lot. And at the end of the first winter, and the boss was bragging on how good the cows looked, I said, well, you need to thank this guy here because he's the one that fed them every day. And that meant more to him than anything else I think ever happened. Because when I left Stewart's, my boss told me I got more work out of him those few short years I was there than he had the whole 20 years before. Because I acknowledged what he did and brought it to the owner's attention. And that guy would go through hell for me. He'd do whatever I asked. He knew I had his back, and he knew I was going to give him credit for it. And I don't think that happens a lot. A sincere thank you sometimes goes further than money or an extra day off. I mean, we all have to have money, don't get me wrong. It takes money to survive. But, how precious is your time? Evan's married, they got a new baby. Boy, it sure be nice to get off a couple hours early and go play with your baby, wouldn't it? Sometimes that may mean more to you than a little bit extra money, or everybody has their own different motivations, but and we need to try to figure out what that is to motivate our employees. But always, these performance reviews are a good time to give some positive feedback.
That goes a long way. If they think they're doing good, then they'll want to do good. If you're.
That's right. Success breeds success.
Give them the good as well as the bad. Then they're want to keep improving.
And telling them the good, as you're telling them, when you're, telling them that what they need to improve on is going to make it a little bit easier to swallow. I think Dave Ramsey, what's his term for that? Some type of sandwich. You tell them the good stuff, you tell them the improvement, then you tell them the good stuff and thank them for it. I can't remember what his phrase is for that type of interaction. But it's it's a good tool that we need to use. Now, anybody have any questions on the importance of these performance reviews? Why they're important?
When I worked at J&J, it was drilled into us as a manager. You praised in public loudly, and you scorned in private.
That's right. You know, you ever have to get on to an employee, never do it in public. You know, if you have to reprimand them, always make sure that's in private. Always. But be lavish with your praise in public. Sure makes them feel good. Now, let's talk a little bit about these differences with these performance reviews and negotiated versus a traditional. You know, one thing that we want to do, or, you know, we want as employers, you know, we want our employees to take responsibility for their actions, right? I mean, we've all been around these people that, you know, no matter what happens to them, it's always somebody else's fault, right? And so we want, you know, we just want them to be responsible and accountable for their actions, for their performance. This negotiated performance review helps that employee take responsibility for their performance. Whereas the traditional type makes the supervisor the expert on the employee's performance. So with this negotiated performance appraisal, you have about 4 lists that you have to complete ahead of time, okay? You list the areas where the employee, where you perform well. You talk about, you know, hey, here's what I've been doing. Here's where what I've been doing good. You list the areas where you need to improve as an employee. Or what you feel are your weak areas. You also make a list on the areas within the last 9 to 12 months, or your last performance appraisal if it was quarterly, where you have made improvement on weak areas, where you've improved some of your weak areas that you discussed before. And then the 4th list is you make a list of what can I as your supervisor do differently to make you more effective on your job. And you as the employee feel you know, completes the list. I as a supervisor does the same thing, and then we discuss it. And that helps put that responsibility back on to your employee. And there's variations of it. You know, Keith had his their company had that variation. Your company, Evan, had a different variation of it. But both of those companies still put that responsibility, had you responsible for your actions. Does that make sense?
If I might add one thing to help employees perform better, the more carrots you can hold out in front of your employees, the better performance. A lot of companies waited to the end of the year to compensate them. Usually that's the year-end salary adjustment. But during the year, as you met certain parameters, my company, for example, would do certain things. They would give you stock options. They would send you American Express gift certificates for meeting the agreed upon negotiated goals. So it's kind of, you wanted to do well. Because the better you did, of course, the company did better, but you went ahead and met the higher demands put upon you.
Okay. That's a good point to make, or good to bring out. When you're doing bonuses, it's an incentive for bonuses, and it, helps you with that. the traditional performance appraisal, as I said, the supervisor acts as the expert on the employee's performance. They figure out what data they want to collect and compare the performance to that data. They determine who conducts the appraisal. They decide the rating philosophy, whether it's good, needs improvement, or below, or, exceeds expectations. They create the rating instrument, how they're going to rate you, and then they give you the information. And these are the type I've always been involved with. I haven't been involved in the negotiated one. I tend to like that theory a lot better, because I can, I think you have better discussion and you can figure out, as an employer or the coach of that football team, what you've got, what changes you have to make to have your players or your people do better.
And plus the fact the employee that's not performing well, it's no surprise to them when you have to make a decision to dismiss them. And then also you have the paper trail in place too, so it protects you.
Very good point. Nobody likes surprises. As good old Dr. Leon Geyer would say, nobody likes a surprise, except on Christmas morning and it's wrapped under the tree. So, when we're, thinking ahead to these, other chapters, when we, or if we have to terminate somebody because they're just not doing their job, these performance reviews, they're going to know it's coming. Just like Keith pointed out, because, they're not doing their job. You're telling them, you're not surprising them. And secondly, you have that documentation. So, you have the documentation. If you need to let somebody go, you have the proof and the documentation for pay raises and bonuses to protect yourself. Thank you, Keith. That's another good point you brought up again on this. So, these things I can't emphasize how much help as a manager or an owner of a business these performance reviews are for you. But you've got to utilize them. And Keith and Evan have really given a lot of insight on this and how they're used, how Keith's company continually did it throughout the year, to meet production bonus or production and so, and to make changes. I think he's really brought a lot of insight in for you guys on the usefulness of these. And Evan did too. Like I said, the ones I've been involved with, they did it once a year, and it was that traditional deal.
Are you going to, Dwayne, are you going to get into to job evaluations this semester?
What do you mean by job evaluations?
Okay, because there's a difference between a performance. I'm teaching to the students at the moment. There's a difference between a performance evaluation and a job evaluation. A performance evaluation is how well the person does the job. But a job evaluation is, do we actually need somebody doing this job? Like for a football team, they would be doing a job evaluation deciding, do we need a third string quarterback? That's not about how good the third string quarterback they have is doing or not. It's, do we actually need that person? And so if you're on a farm and you've got somebody that's helping you train horses or break horses, but you no longer breaking horses, do you need that person anymore? It's not a judgment on how well the person did their job, but do we really need it anymore? And part of the thing, and as a business, you've got to do that job evaluation. Do we really need 8 English teachers here anymore? Do we really need 3 chainsaw juggling instructors? You know, and when you ask those questions, you got to make sure that you're telling the employee, we're trying to figure out what's going on here, and it's not about your job. We're not judging you. It's about, so I need the honest answers about what are you doing. I'm not judging you, the person. I'm looking at what's going on with the job. Because if you, so.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, it's just sort of the whole thing is you got to be careful blurring the lines there, because if people, you're honestly, do we need a third string quarterback versus having another punt returner? If the person thinks their job is on the line, what are they going to do? They're going to lie out their teeth. So you have to have whatever assurances in that kind of place so you can get the honest information there. And same thing for performance evaluation. Just because you're getting rid of somebody doesn't necessarily mean, that job is going to be eliminated. And so you have to think about that, separate the person from the position and evaluate both of them separately.
And that's a good point. And I haven't really talked about, or I haven't talked about job evaluations. The first time, when you're doing a job evaluation, you're going to do that before you hire anybody. Do I need to hire somebody for this job? And the book talks about it a little bit in chapter 1 of, you're going in there, and do you need to hire somebody? And if you do, what are their jobs they're going to do? And then you start sitting down there and doing a job description. I hadn't really thought about, and you bring up, I hadn't thought about, and you really bring up a good point there, Tom, about, continuing to do job evaluations to see, maybe at the time you needed this person in, and things have changed throughout the years. Do I still need this job?
And ultimately the point.
Good point.
Yeah, like you say, you're thinking about, do we need the person when you're first hiring the person, but over time, things change. Like even for the college here, I joked of, do we need, 8 English teachers? Well, our student population is dropping, so we don't need 8. And that's part of the job evaluation. And then that's when the performance evaluation comes into the, well, who are we going to let go? But before that, you've got to decide, do we, how many English teachers do we need? How many horse wranglers do we need? How many cow milkers do we need? And that should actually be an ongoing thing.
Well, I think there's 2 issues here. I think for as the employee, the manager or boss is the performance appraisal, but the job evaluation, that's upper management. They will sit down and decide and project what the future might be and what they currently have and what they need to expand or eliminate. And then they find if, for example, you had 8 milkers and the milking business is going down, you only need 6, and that's when the performance appraiser sits in there. You're going to pick the best 6 out of the 8 that you have.
Yep, but a lot of times, like for a farm, you are upper level management too, so you do have to make both calls. But where you are working in the real world for Johnson & Johnson, Nestle, and them all, yeah, that's upper level management that's making those calls.
And then if you have to have a layoff, these performance and you decided to do, you're basing everything on merit. Again, these performance appraisals are going to come in for your documentation.
But performance is not always the case when it comes down to that. So,
no, it's not always the case, because it could be that job. The job's no longer needed.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying their decision on who they keep and who they get rid of.
Right.
The last one I was through with the layoff, price was a big factor in it. The company that bought us was a nip and tuck kind of place.
Right, and they're going to get rid of the most expensive people.
The expensive people, and they kept a lot of the younger people that wasn't making hardly as much, did the same work out of them, but they weren't paying as much.
Right.
That's a determinant factor.
Yeah, I mean, there's
a lot of different things.
That's right. You know, when the company my dad worked for, they got bought out by a bigger company, and that's what they did. They got rid of the high priced, the high salaried people, or the higher salaried people. Um, and you know, my dad had been there for 20 some years. So
Good worker, done everything,
yeah,
so that they don't play a part in it.
they don't play a part. They just looked at price. We can hire somebody else cheaper than him, somebody just fresh out of college. And dad was gone. So
Well, that's what's
that's the way
happening
they
with the
look at
H. That's what's happening with the H-2 visa program. That's being abused the same way.
Yeah. You know, it's we can find all sorts of examples with that abuses. But, you know, Tom brings up a good point with that the job evaluation being different than the performance appraisal, and they are two different things. And you know, these performance appraisals, they're time consuming, and they can be stressful for the employee. They can be stressful for the interview, or you know, for the supervisor. Uh, Remember to be positive in them. Employees during these performance reviews, they tend to be passive resistant. Some can even get defensive. It's kind of that dreaded performance review type deal. Or a lot of people, you know, a lot of employees feel that way. So they're going to be resistant, could be defensive. And you as an employer, you know, you can do both. You can use a combination of the traditional, you can use the negotiated, or you can make it suit your company. But it's a great tool. It's a great time to give feedback to your employees. It's going to let you know where you need training, you need staffing, or promotions, or whatever. It's a great tool for you. And it's another place for documentation on decisions you make, whether it's going to be layoffs, terminations, or if, you know, promotions, raises, bonuses, whatever. So, anybody have any questions or comments? We've had a lot of good discussion.
I have a couple. I have a couple
Yeah.
questions, kind of related to past lectures we've had and discussions. What I read recently. The first thing, you know, we talked about the verification of citizenship, your driving record, your criminal history. In an article I was reading, it says the new parameters evaluating who gets hired and stuff, and I don't quite understand the justification, is based upon your credit score. That is the new thing that they're looking at. And I mean, how can your private information like that be used for or against you?
I don't know. I've wondered that myself. I guess one way you know, they're using credit scores for everything now, even for car insurance. If you have a low credit score, you have to pay a higher premium. I don't even know where that comes into play for car insurance, you know, but it does. The only thing I can figure out with that credit score is, number one, you know, especially if you're handling money or, making financial decisions and stuff like that. If you can't handle your own home finances, are you going to be able to handle a company's finances? I look
Well, I was
at
just
it from
thinking
that
of,
aspect.
I was just thinking with the housing crisis, with the mortgages, with so many people had underwater mortgages and they walked away from them, and that really dings your credit score, and you really had no control or any uh, control over that issue. It happened a few years ago, and that could follow you through for getting new jobs, or just I don't know. I just didn't think it was fair.
Yeah, you're right on that. It could hurt you, but Keith, I may sound like I'm a mean guy when I say this. Uh, Maybe it's because my dad was an accountant. My dad's very conservative with money, and my dad, I like Dave Ramsey. I like to read his books, and I remember one of his books was either Dumping Financial Peace, I think was the name of it, or the Dumping Debt or something like that. One of the first statements in his book is, I'm not going to tell you anything your grandmother hasn't told you about money. And boy, he was right. I mean, it wasn't my grandmother, it was my dad. My dad told me, the only thing you go in debt, there's only two things you need to go into debt for. One is a house, and one is your first car. After that, you need to be paying cash. The second car is a luxury.
Yeah.
Which, oh. I used to work in the mortgage industry, so I can throw a little bit more in here. They're going to look beyond your credit score. They're going to look at your whole credit report, and your credit report will show each month, going back at least 2 years, how many times you paid on time, how many times you were late, how many times you didn't pay. So they can give you a little bit of pass. Your credit score may be low because of the mortgage, and if they choose to, they could say, well, it may not be their fault. They can ignore that, but they can see, did you skip payments on your electric bill? Did you skip payments on your credit card? Did you skip payments on your car payment? And that kind of thing. And they use that as a sign of responsibility and organization and that kind of thing. And if you don't have your own finances squared away, you mentally can't keep up with paying your bills each month and that kind of thing, then that's why they're looking at it. As well as are you going to be somebody that's going to steal money, embezzle money, or that kind of thing. So it's a lot showing for responsibility and character, and they are going to go beyond just that 3-digit number. They're going to look at, have you made your payments on time or not, and that's reliability and responsibility.
Yeah, I would look at it, from the like I said, on how well you handle your own finances. I didn't know credit reports did that, showed that consistency of payment or what all, if you paid your bills or late or whatever. I didn't know
Yes.
that's what they didn't know that
And,
was involved in that.
yep, and tune in a few weeks in the 143 class, because we'll end up talking about that. If you end up skipping one payment and you don't make up for it, then you just skip payment after payment after payment. So don't skip payments.
Okay. Well, thank you. I have a second question. And the other thing I was reading, there's a company out called E-Verify, where you're a prospective employee, you can send in the person's name and they'll give you all the information on that person. Or if you are an employee looking for a job, you can fill it out and have a pre-authorized letter that you can submit along with your application to the employer when you fill it out that says that you meet all the criteria. Do you know anything about this? Is this a legitimate company or what it costs? It didn't give you that information.
I've seen it advertised, but that's about all I know about it.
That's all I know too. Okay.
I haven't really looked into it.
Okay.
So,
A lot of employers will just use like Facebook, social media, get on there and check you out,
Yeah, be careful what you post on Facebook. People's been fired over postings on Facebook. You know, buddy of mine got fired over a posting on Facebook. Idiot.
Hey, call in sick and then post pictures from a ball game or something.
No, it was a little bit different.
Yeah.
He was out on due to an injury and went skydiving and took pictures. Had the video of him skydiving when he's supposed to have been on medical leave for a broke finger.
Yeah.
Well, it's not going to interfere with my skydiving. Like, oh, you're pushing the envelope a little bit too far on that one.
I've noticed stuff like that too. I've seen people put pictures on there like they have a job where they're not supposed to have a cell phone, and here they are posting selfies in their hard hat, working hard today. You know, I said that. You know,
Yeah.
not supposed to have a phone, but here you are taking pictures.
Yeah, be careful what you put on social media. That can hurt you. I mean, from job wise, you know, getting a job, getting fired, even you know, have you ever watched Northwoods Law? Man, they run down poachers and everything else with that. They solve a lot of crime with social media. But anyway, I guess do you have any questions about any of this that we went over?
Have you had a chance to look at our test and also our last assignment?
No, sir, I have not done that yet. And that's my fault. I just haven't got to it.
You'll be dinging our performance evaluation of you.
I know. I do have them in. I need to get them graded. Well, your last assignment today, everybody got full credit on. That made your talking heads and participated in that discussion. So I did get that one graded, but I need to get your other ones graded. And regarding that, we did put off. We did change the date for those interview questions since we made the performance review due this week. So we'll make the interview questions, the planned questions and discrimination deal due let's see. I have that due on February 21st. That would be this weekend, wouldn't it? No, next weekend, right? That'll be all right. Make that due next weekend, the 21st. Is that okay with you guys? You've already done yours, Keith, right?
Yeah, I didn't realize they were changed. Okay.
Yeah, I said we'd move these back a week because we put that performance review. We because this was due in April. We just moved it up here when we were doing the performance.
Okay, so I got a free weekend then. Thank you.
Yeah, you're fine. So we'll just have that due next week. So, you about
The 21st is next Tuesday.
Okay. Well, we'll just have it due right. Yeah, the 24th is on Friday. Mom and Dad's anniversary. They'll be married 60 some years. Pretty impressive. Yeah. So we'll just have it due on the February the 20th. Well, the 20th would be 17th is Friday, 18th Saturday, 19th. We'll just have it due the weekend of the 24th. Let's see, 24th Friday, and Saturday will be the 25th, 26th. Sunday the 26th, That way you got a free weekend with this weekend, guys. That fine? That okay with y'all? If you want to turn it in earlier, that's fine. And I'll try to get this stuff graded this weekend. Unless the guy comes up with my spring and I got to do what I got to do for water. It's that simple. But every day I go up there and I work on that water for a couple hours trying to, come on, let me have some water. So, anyway, it's a pain. But anyway, all right, guys, I'll let you guys go. I appreciate everybody's comments and insight. And if you have any questions, give me a holler. But there's no need to start another chapter with 2 minutes left.
So do we need to pick a date for our dinner in Roanoke at the steakhouse?
Are you buying?
No, our rich teachers, you and Mr. Scales. And maybe we
It's
get the
not
dean
very-
involved too.
I'm
I don't
not
have any
rich.
money.
I'm
My
only
wife has
part
it.
time. I don't get
Yeah.
paid very much.
And my wife has all my money. I promise my wallet is
Well, you can
empty.
pick up the appetizers then. We'll see if Dean Dixie will pick up the main course.
Yeah. There you
Good luck
go.
with
I
that
know
one,
what
too.
you'll say. You think I'm tight? You need to get to know Dixie a little bit better.
That's what I was
the
thinking.
story? Let me tell you this story she related to us one day in class. She said chocolate is her weakness. She likes chocolate. But she only buys chocolate after a major holiday when it's really on sale, big time. She won't buy it any other time. She'll wait. So like here in a couple days, after today, you know, all these Valentine's chocolates will go on sale and she'll stock up on some chocolate. Hold her hopefully to the next big holiday when people like chocolates, which in this case will probably be Halloween.
Oh no, you got Easter coming up. My wife does the same thing.
So you telling me if I get an Easter present from the dean that's in the shape of hearts, I know when she bought it?
Probably.
Either that or if you get an Easter tree
Easter's
farmer, you
coming
might
up
have to,
next.
Yeah,
I'm
but
sorry.
if you get
Easter will be
if you-
next.
Yeah, if you get a Valentine's treat farmer this week, you need to scrape the freezer dust off, freezer burn off, because it's been sitting in the freezer all year.
Oh, it's kind of like that whitish cast on chocolate you see once in a while.
Yeah, and that chocolate doesn't taste good.
No.
You see that, you might as well toss it. It's just not good. But y'all think I'm tight now. Dixie's every bit as tight, if not more frugal than I am.
This conversation is being recorded, you know. I might be able to get 2 free meals from y'all.
Hey, Dixie's proud of it. She'll say, yeah, I'm
And
right there with you, Dwayne.
And I can hit the delete key too, so I have the power to burn these recordings down at
Dixie
any
will
time.
admit it.
So I guess we can count on McDonald's Happy Meal certificates from y'all.
Exactly.
Aim a little lower. Aim a little lower.
$1 menu, actually.
Or the 99-cent Wendy's special.
That's right. That's exactly right. So, well, for those of you that are married and have boyfriends or girlfriends, you don't forget today's Valentine's Day. So, treat your significant other, your wife or your boyfriend, something nice.
That applies, but I don't know how appropriate it is.
I saw one, this lady was sitting at her table and her husband, and she's got her head down like she's crying.
Yeah.
And underneath it, it says, a saddle. You bought me a brand new saddle instead of flowers and chocolate.
Yeah.
And then it said, no horse person ever would say something that stupid. So, anyway. Well, let's get to the vet. The vet's coming today. So, well, y'all have a good day. I'll get to these. I'll try to get this stuff graded by, this week and next week, this coming weekend. So bear with me.
So I've got a test in there, and what was that assignment that we done the other day?
What's that?
That assignment that he was talking about that we need to grade? Am I behind one?
You had the job announcement in?
Did you
advertise for your job? Did you get that article I sent you about alternative? About that beef, the organic beef people? I think I shared it with you on Facebook.
Yeah, I got that. Mm-hmm.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then there was one, I can't remember if I shared this with you or not. It was in Beef Magazine, the paid notice about alternative forages for grass-fed beef.
Okay. No, I got that.
Just talking about turnips.
Mm-hmm.
That's winter annual.
Yeah.
And that grade season is what we've been talking about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're supposed to have a test tomorrow, and then we'll figure out some everybody get back to the thing.
I'm gonna be out again tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Kind of got a job interview.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm at. Was for Spectre tomorrow. Spectre Energy.
Is it truck driver?
Lives back in Fort.
Oh, okay.
And that's what I was actually at yesterday. I was down in Charleston, South Carolina yesterday. I interviewed for Shell.
Doing what?
Working at the oil refinery.
That would you'd be working in Charleston?
Yeah.
Okay.
Find me a backup plan in case I take the place off. Yeah.
Would you be leaving there?
Yeah, probably still in there. 6 hours, 2 hours drive every day.
Well, I meant like.
Yeah.
Maybe come home that week.
Yeah. Now, I'd probably, my wife, she don't want to. She's teaching and everything up here.
Where's she?
Oh, yeah. Elementary school.
Yeah, we probably.
Who's that?
Maybe more.
Oh, yeah.
He told me he's thinking about retiring.
Yeah.
He could find somebody who'd be interested in taking over his program.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I do interested. I said, yeah.
Yep.
Come by, I'll take your job.
Yep.
Say what I want to do.
Yep.
And if I find somebody who will be interested in taking over my program,
Oh, yeah.
I don't have a teaching.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Huh. Well, that's pretty good. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think you. Yeah. And that's there. Get all place in. I'll keep you in mind. Yeah. It's a beautiful day. A couple more meetings on it, We're wanting to break it down, and we're
The big thing now is the money, right? Coming up with the financing.
they I don't know, they offered us a pretty good deal on it so far, Not got nothing set in stone, but what they're talking right now, it's pretty good. You can decide the plot. We're waiting on
You're looking up there.
we're waiting on Dave to get a price again.
has that brick house and all that board fence around it and up behind it.
Yeah.
I've never known it.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe it's a little friend
The doctor or something.
owns mine back years ago. Yeah, he made his mine bad. He knows he was up there.
So where's this other piece of property?
We've got two spots. Well, let's say that one spot. You know, the one right across the road from the Valero. They went in there a couple years ago and paved that little parking lot.
Yeah.
Like they were gonna put something in there.
Yeah.
Never did. Well, that fell through. Or it didn't fall through, but it just changed mine.
What was going to go in? Really?
You know, when they bought the fourth place down there,
Uh-huh.
the plan,
Freedom Court?
Yeah.
That ain't nothing more than third.
they're not free for it, it's more than full for there in St. Paul.
Oh, St. Paul.
Yeah. But the plan was to move it to their Castlewood place and then move the Castlewood lot right there. But they went and repaved and done all that work down there and he's not gonna move it. Everybody